to tonight's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be taking on a brand new type of Sudoku line, described as being a lavender line, which I suppose looks actually fairly accurate. And it's also called a zipper line. And basically what it means is that there's some digits an equal distance from the center of a lavender line must sum to the digit in the middle of that line. So if we just look at what that might mean for this cell here, that's the middle of that line. So the digits that are an equal distance, so those two would sum to the yellow digit, these two would sum to the yellow digit, and those two would sum to the yellow digit, is I think how the rules work. And that is literally all the rules apart from normal Sudoku rules apply. It's a puzzle called Incomplete Squares, and it's by GDC. Now, GDC, I've definitely done a GDC puzzle or two on the channel before. I should have looked up actually how hard GDC's puzzles were, but I did look this up on Logic Masters Germany, and it has 2 stars out of 5 difficulty, so I'm expecting it to be only, it should be not approachable necessarily, not genuinely approachable, but certainly doable. So I definitely commend this to you. Lots and lots of people have sent this to us and said it's really, really cool puzzle with a very interesting new rule set. So, and I see why it's called Incomplete Squares as well, because there are lots of these things in the grid, and they're just one vertex short of being squares. And I don't have much news for you today. In fact, let me just think. No, just an appeal as usual. If you do enjoy the channel, please consider subscribing. That would make us happy. Please consider, if you really enjoy the channel, you could consider joining us on Patreon, which is where we publish a lot of extra content every month. It's a couple of bucks a month, and there's always a Sudoku hunt on the first day of the month, and lots of extra crossword content as well if you enjoy that sort of thing. And just check out our apps as well. We have a line Sudoku app, although it doesn't include any zipper lines in it, but it is very cool. All our apps feature handcrafted puzzles, which is really the thing that this channel is all about, solving puzzles made by human beings, all of the puzzles are absolutely world class. Each and every day is a great treat. So, I could read you the rules of this one. I've sort of done it. Normal Sudoku rules apply, so the digits 1 to 9 in every row, column, and 3x3 box. And then we've discussed what a zipper line is, so I'm not going to do that again. Do have a go. The way to play, as usual, is to click the link under the video. That will take you to a page on your device that looks identical to this one, where you can play the puzzle on whichever device takes your fancy. But now, I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, let's see. There is some mathematics that I can tell you about, I think, on a line. So if we just take this line, which is very similar to all the other lines, but this line here, you can see that the digits that are being summed, if you like, to arrive at the total of yellow are those two, and those two, which means that we're adding up those 6 digits and dividing by 3 in effect, because these two will add up to x, these two will add up to x, and those two will add up to x, where x is equal to the yellow digit. So what we've got then is at least 21, because if we minimize the total of those squares, the absolute minimum we could put into those squares would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the triangular number for 6 is 21. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 is 21. So I know that the minimum sum of those is 21. Divided by 3 is 7. So that cell is at least a 7. And that is going to hold true for every... No, not quite every. Most corners of these incomplete squares. They all have to be 7, 8, and 9, except, rather annoyingly, this one, I think. Because that 1, 2, 3 logic doesn't work. And that's because obviously those, well, I mean, it won't be the case, but those could both be 1s. So we could have repeated digits. These 4 can't repeat, but these 2 could repeat down here. And I think that must mean that we could have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 and 2, for example, which would only add up to 13. And 13 divided by 3 is only just over 4, so it introduces degrees of freedom that don't exist on the other squares. It's quite hard, actually, to put 9 into this box, is the second thought I'm having. Because every cell in this box is on a line, and obviously 9 can never be part of a sum. So we can never put 9 in any of those cells, or that one, right? So 9 is in one of 2 places in box 2. Yeah, okay, and 3 places, therefore, in box 3, because it's either the sum, isn't it? It's the sum digit, or it's off the line altogether. The same must be true here. So 9s are going to be restricted, but yeah, well, where does 9 go in that box? Oh, no, that's it. There we go. Where does 9 go in box 8? It can't go on a line unless it is the central digit. So it's in one of those squares, which means that that's not a 9, which means this is a 9. Which means that is not a 9. Oh, I'm getting a notification. Diablo 4 is undergoing an update. Well, hopefully that will make it better. 9, nearly. 9 in the central box is in one of these 2 squares. 9, no, almost had a good idea there. Where does 9 go in column 7? Well, the answer is it's got to be in one of these central positions on the square, so it's either there or there, which is not quite good enough, is it? Where's 9 in box? Oh, sorry. Okay, this is where we should have started with 9s. Where's 9 in box 7? It can't go along a line unless it's in the crux, in the corner. So that's got to go there, which means that's not a 9. Oh, right, and no, this is great. So now where does 9 go in column 7? It can't go in this one. It can't go in that cell, so it's only got one cell. So it goes there. 9 is placed in the middle of the grid. 9 is not in those positions. This is really cool, isn't it? It's not so difficult, which is great. I like puzzles that are not difficult, but I like them when they're interesting, and this certainly is. Let's just see. So 9 is in one of 4 places in box 9. And the same is true in box 1, I think. Right, so where's the natural place to look now? That digit must be restricted. Yeah, here you go. Right, so if this is 7, then the numbers... We know that 7 was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sextuplet on the line. So if this is 7, this is 8. And if this is 8, you can't put 4 on the line because it would require double 4. And 2 4s in the same box of Sudoku won't work. So that's 4 or 8. 9 is the sum of those 2 digits, so that's 1 or 5. And... oh, I see. And it's sort of the same in this box, except it's a little bit less restricted. So either we're filling these digits with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, in which case this is a 7, 8, 9 triple on the diagonal. Well, it's 7 here with an 8, 9 pair. Or this is an 8, and there's a 4, 9 off the line. So actually 7 is never in these 2 positions, because either 8 is on the line, in which case 1, 7 is going to be a pair somewhere, or 7 is here. Okay, so these are from 4, 8, 9, so we've almost got 4, 8, 9 things going on in row 2. By the secret, those 2 squares add up to 9. The secret being, of course, something I only tell my very favourite people, but if you're still watching the video 10 minutes in, you're definitely one of my favourite people. And the secret of Sudoku is that a complete row, a complete column, or a complete box of a Sudoku, because of the rules of Sudoku, contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. The digits 1 to 9 add up to 45. Well, if we think about how these lines work, the zipper line, that's 9, so those 2 add up to 9, those 2 add up to 9, and those 2 add up to 9. In other words, the total of that line is 4 times 9, which is 36. So those 2 squares must add up to 9. I don't know if that's useful. I suppose, well, if these add up to 9, the minimum value of those two squares is a 1 plus a 2. So that's 12. So 12 is the minimum for these digits, and they represent two sums, don't they? So this is at least a 6. So that's 6, 7, or 8. It can't be 9, which is almost useful. So maybe it is this one somehow. Oh no, I know what it is. It's really obvious, actually. It's lovely. It's a lovely idea. Okay. So now the question, I think, the natural question is, where is 8 in box 8? Because this can't, because any zipper line that can't add up to 9 can't have 8 on its line, if you see what I mean. Because, I mean, if we were to put 8 in any of these cells, then the total for the line would have to be 9, and it can't be. So 8 is in these squares, and therefore that square is a 7, and we're off to the races. So now 8 can't be on the zipper line in box 2, so that's an 8. That's a 1 by mathematics. 8 plus 1 equals 9. This is not an 8. This is a 6. It can't be 7 or 8 now, so that's 6. That means this line is, well, we don't know. Actually, we don't know. But we do know that's a 1-2 pair now, which probably does something to this line. And we know this is a 1-2 pair because we know these two add up to 9. So these have to be kept to a minimum in order that we can have 6 on the line. Oh, I don't know. Hang on. Well, yeah, no, I do know what these are, because if this is a 1-2 pair and we're going up towards 6, these add up to 9, these have to be a 4-5 pair, don't they? Because the individual sums have to add up to 6. So this has to be the complement of a 1 or a 2, which adds up to 6. So, sorry, that was actually fairly clear. That's a 1. So that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 4, and that's a 5. And I was totally wrong about how hard that line was to fill. It was actually straightforward. Okay, but now these digits are at least 3, 4, 5, and 6, aren't they? Which is 18. And these are at least 1 and 2. Which is another 3, so it's 21 for 3 different sums. So this is now 7 or 8, which feels like it might matter. Now, can we do that somehow? That feels like that's close to being resolved, doesn't it? It does to me, anyway. It is resolved. Okay, it's resolved by something far more straightforward. Oh dear, dear, dear. Okay, I think these lines have got potential. I will tell you that, because they're really interesting. And then there's some lovely logical consequences that immediately flow. I'm sort of starting to feel it. Look, the 7 in this box has to be on a line. So this can't add up to 7. That must be 8. That must be 7. That means 8 can't be on this this line. So 8 goes in the corner. That's a 9. 9 comes out of these squares. So let's think about this. Yeah, this is still interesting as well, this line, because there's a 7 in one of 3 places. I don't know exactly where, except that the 7 has to be opposite a 1 to add up to 8. So the 7 and the 1 can't be there because this 1 stops this being a 1. This is beautiful. That can't be a 7 because that would be a 1. So this is a 7 and that's a 1. And now, well, can we repeat that trick with 6 is what I'm next wondering. 6 is definitely in one of those 2 squares, which means, and this, hang on, how does this work? No, that's wrong, isn't it? 6 can't be in these 2 squares, because if the 6 was in one of those 2 squares, it would have 2 opposite it to add up to 8. So 6, so I see, so 6 is in this square. 6, yeah, that was that I missed this digit. That also has the possibility of being 6. So that's 6, that's 2. And now these two squares have to add up to 8 without using 1 or 2. So that is a 3-5 pair, and we know the order. So that's 5, that's 3. These squares are 4, 8, and 9, and that means this is a 4 by Sudoku. Can't be 8 or 9 by the row. Okay. Now what does that mean? I'm not sure yet. Don't know. 6 is in one of those two positions. Now that's on a line adding up to 7. So if this was 6, this would be a 1. And if this was 6, this would be a 1, and it can't be. So those are not 1 and 6. This is 6. This is 1. So we've got 2, 5, and 3, 4 to place. What's the way to do that? So 5 I can see is in one of these squares, which means 2 is in one of these squares. And then, can we do the 3s and the 4s, or is that... It's just quite interesting. One. Yeah, because you sort of get 2 bites of the cherry every time, don't you? If we look at 1s and 6s in this box now, 1 is removed from all those squares, so 1 is in one of these 3 positions. But we have to bear in mind that wherever we put the 1, yeah, this can't be a 1, because its counterpart would be here, which would be a 6, and that 6 stops that happening. So 1 is vertical in column, in box 3, and that means 1 is on the line here. Now which one of these can't be 8? There, this one can't be. If that's 1, that's 8, and it doesn't work. So the 1 goes here. This is 8. And now 7 has to be in one of those 2 squares, which means 2... Oh no, I've broken it. No, sorry, I've made a mistake, haven't I? Oh, well, no, that's beautiful. No, okay, I was about to make a mistake by trying to put 7 here, but that was, of course, forgetting that there has to be a pair of this line that adds up to 9, because of the same logic down here. And we now know, because you can't put 2 or 7 in these squares, that you can't put 2 or 7 in these squares. So this is a 2, 7, but this is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Now 6 has to be vertical here, which means 3 has to be horizontal. And now in this column, where is 3? And the answer is up there. And that means that 4 has to be in one of those 2 squares, which means 4 in this box has to be in one of those 2 squares, which means 3 has to be in one of these 2 squares, and that 3 fixes it. This is sensational. This is absolutely sensational. It's very clever. Now, can we repeat this trickery with 5 now over this side? I don't know. Oh, well, that's a 3 digit. That's a 4. That's easier, actually, because now there's a 4 up here, and that must have a 5 in one of these 2 squares. So these have become a 3-5 pair, and these have become a 4-6 pair. So let's finish that off. Now those squares at the top of the column have to be 5 and 3, which, well, let's put that in. So these squares have to be the complements of those, which are, well, so this can't be 1 anymore, can it? The 1 has to go here, that has to be the 6. And these squares have got to be 2 and 4. Now, have we got any more Sudoku we can avail ourselves of to finish this off? I'm sure there's probably something. 6 is in one of those squares. And 1 is in one of these squares. And these squares are known. They are 3, 7, and yeah, well, then they're sort of known, but we don't actually, or at least I don't think I can immediately resolve them. These squares are a 2-5 pair. So 2 is down here. This line might be worth investigating, because it can't have 1 or 2 in its adding thingies. That's the technical term, the adding thingies on the zipper line. So this is at least 3 and 4, which means this is at least a 7. So this is 7 or 8, and it must have a 3 in it, because otherwise it can't stay as low as 7 or 8. If this was 4, 5, it would add up to 9, wouldn't it? So these squares are from 3, 4, and 5, and that can't be 4. And there's definitely that's not a 3. And now there's a 7, 8 pair in this row, which makes this square have to be a 2, 2, 7, 4. Just Sudoku. And now I suppose by getting the 2 and the 4, we know the order of the other squares on the zipper line, because they all have to add up to 7. So now 9 comes out of those squares, and we know what these squares are, which is 2, 3, and 9. And we know that that's not a 9, so we've got a chance of a 3 in a corner, a 50-50 on that. Now 4, there's a 4 here, so that's a 9, that's a 9, that's an 8. 8 is now in one of 2 places on this line. Now 8's going to be opposite a 1. And the 8 can't go there because that would have a 1, and that clashes. So the 8 goes here. So the 8 and the 1 are very close to the 9. Okay. Let's keep going then. Another chance for a 3 in the corner. Here as well. 50-50. So I'd be very unlucky not to get one now. Okay, where does 2 go in the bottom row? It has to go there. So that must be opposite 7. And 3 and 6 can just be placed, and that's a 6, and therefore we need a 7 in the box, so let's put that in. Okay, and this would ordinarily be a deadly pattern, but it's resolved by the fact that the 4, 6 can be resolved, and that will determine the order of the 3, 5, which will determine the order of this 3, 5. This is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, this rule set. Now... Okay, so how do we make more progress at this juncture? What's the next step? That's a 2, so that's a 2. Oh, that's it. That's how we do it, because now 5's knocked off this line. So it must be a 3, 4 pair adding up to 7. So that's an 8. This is now a 3, because it can't be a 5, and that's a 4. And is that good? Yes, because that's a 4 and that's a 6, which means this is a 3 and this is a 5, which means this is a 5, and boom! That's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight. Losing its religion. What more could you ask for, frankly? An absolute banger of a puzzle and a 3 in the corner. Not much, I can tell you that. So this is 1, 2, and 8. That's not 1, that's not 8, and that's not 2. Chocolate teapotting down here, aren't we? Can we do anything at the top? That's not 3, that's not 2. Oh no, hang on. That's a 9 in fact. So that's a 2. And that's another 3. And that's another 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight. Losing its religion. So okay, so that's how you can improve upon it. You don't get 1 3 in the corner, you get 2 3s in the corner. Thank you very much, GDC. We need 1, 2, and 5 in this column. So that's a 1, that's a 2, that's an 8, and that's a 1, and that's a 5. This is 4 and 7. This is such a good idea, and we need 6 and 8. So 8 and 6, and it's done, I think. Isn't that beautiful? That is one of the most original and brilliant new ideas I've seen in a very long time. I absolutely love that rule. It's just sensational. A zipper line. So lavender lines, I expect to see a lot more of these. Although maybe this is the absolutely quintessential best way of utilising such lines, because the logic, I loved the way that these sort of squares bounced back and forwards between each other. It felt so natural and like wonderful to solve. That is a great puzzle. I absolutely loved it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and especially when they give some much well-deserved praise to GDC. And we'll be back later with another edition, Cracking the Cryptic.